Karina, baby, good morning. Today is July the 30th. Let's find out what our story is for today. In a year full of stories. I have Luna in my room today because we're out camping and I come back every day. Not the only one, but we come back every day to check on the house and all the animals and stuff on the farm. Mama's going to have to go do the cow in a little bit. Look at this. Wonder what it's all about. Let's find out. Noah and the Big Fish. One breezy day, Noah decided to go sailing on the lake. Flip and Flop, the penguins, wanted to go too. "All right," said Noah. "You can be my crew." Noah's sailboat was docked at the pier. He held the boat steady while the penguins jumped aboard. Then Noah climbed on and hoisted the sail, while Flip and Flop pulled up the anchor. The wind filled the sail, and soon the boat was skimming across the lake. "This is fun," said Flip and Flop, as the waves sprayed them with foam. But when they got to the middle of the lake, the wind stopped blowing. The sail flapped against the mast, and the boat drifted to a stop. "Oh dear," said Noah. "What now?" Flip and Flop knew what to do. While Noah sat on the boat, waiting for a breeze, they went swimming. The penguins had a great time diving off the deck and splashing into the lake. Meanwhile, Noah waited and waited, but there wasn't a puff of wind anywhere. Suddenly, Flip and Flop gave a shout. A great big fish swam by and popped his head up to say hello. "Please help us," said Noah. The big fish was very friendly and said he would rescue them. "Just tie the rope to my tail," he said. So Noah tied a rope to the fish's tail, and swish, swish, they were off. The fish towed the sailboat safely back to shore. "Thank you very much," said Noah and the penguins. The big fish said goodbye, and with a mighty swish of his tail, he was gone. Just then, a puff of wind blew across the lake and whisked Noah's hat off. "What a silly sail day," said Noah. "That is silly, huh? They had no wind at all. A fishy saved their lives, and then the wind came back." A little bit more patience, and he would have been able probably to sail ashore himself. What a beautiful story. All right, baby, let's see what we got in A Treasury of Fairy Tales. Sorry, the lighting isn't good in my room. A Treasury of Fairy Tales. First one is Little Red Riding Hood. There she is. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little village girl, the prettiest you have ever seen. Her mother loved her dearly. That's like you, baby. You are the prettiest little girl Mama has ever seen in her entire life, and I love you dearly. I really do. You are my daughter, and I love you. As did her grandmother. She had made her a little red hood, which suited her so well that everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Your grandmother is not very well. Go and see her. See how she is. You can take her some cookies and this homemade jar of jelly." Little Red Riding Hood left right away to visit her grandmother, who lived in another village. As she was walking through the forest, she met a wolf. He would like to have gobbled her up on the spot, but he did not dare to because there was some woodcutters nearby in the forest. He pretended to be very kind and asked her where she was going. The poor girl did not know it was dangerous to talk to a wolf, and she said to him, "I am going to see my grandmother to take her some cookies and a jar of jelly my mother made for her." "Does she live very far away?" asked the wolf. "Oh, yes," replied Little Red Riding Hood. "Her house is beyond the mill, by the first house in the village." "Well," said the wolf, "I would like to see her too. I will take this road, and you take the other road, and we will see who arrives first." The wolf set off on the shortest path, running as fast as he could, while the little girl went by the other long path, amusing herself by gathering nuts, running after butterflies, and picking small bunches of flowers. It did not take the wolf very long to reach the grandmother's house. Here's what the wolf looks like, baby. He reached up and knocked on the door. "Tap, tap! Who is it?" came a voice from inside. "It is your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, disguising his voice. "I have brought you some cookies and a jar of jelly my mamma made for you." The good grandmamma, who was in bed, called out, "Lift up the latch and come in." The wolf lifted the latch of the door, opened, and once he leaped onto the bed, hey baby, and ate up the poor woman in less than a second. Then he closed the door and lay down in the grandmother's bed to wait for Little Red Riding Hood. A few minutes later, she knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who is it?" came a gruff wolf's voice. When she heard this, Little Red Riding Hood was a little scared at first, but remembered her grandmother was ill and answered, "It's your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. I brought you some cookies and a jar of jelly my mamma had made for you." The wolf softened his voice a little and called out, "Lift up the latch and come in." Little Red Riding Hood lifted the latch and the door opened. The wolf hid under the bed covers and said, "Put the cookies and jar of jelly on the table, and come sit on the bed beside me." Little Red Riding Hood climbed onto the bed and stared at her grandmother. "Grandma, what big arms you have," she cried. "All the better to hug you with," the wolf replied. "And Grandma, what big ears you have, all the better to hear you with." "Grandma, what big eyes you have, all the better to see you with, my child." "Grandma, what big teeth you have," cried Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to eat you with," barked the wolf. And throwing back the covers, he leapt out of bed. Ouch, ouch. And of bed, just as he was about to eat up the little girl, the woodcutter, who had been in the forest, burst into the cottage. With one blow of his axe, he cut off the wolf's head, and nobody was ever troubled by that wicked creature again. Okay. Oh. See the kitten, baby? Oh, the lighting really isn't good. This is the kitten. Her name is Luna. Isn't she cute? Oh my goodness, she's such a love. Her nails are sharp though. Oh, baby. She is purring so loud. She missed Mama. She misses everybody. She never had to sleep by herself before. Now 2 days in a row she's been sleeping by herself. Alright, baby cakes. Let's do Snow White and Rose Red. Once upon a time, a poor widow lived in a hut in a lovely place. In front of the hut was a garden in which grew 2 rose bushes, one with white roses and the other with red. Ouch. The widow had 2 daughters just like the rose bushes, and they were called Snow White and Rose Red. The girls were very kind and obedient, and everyone who met them thought they must be the nicest girls in all the world. Rose Red loved to run through the fields and the meadows, picking flowers and catching butterflies, but Snow White preferred to stay with her mother at home, helping with her the housework and reading to her when the work was finished. The sisters loved each other so much that they always held hands when they left the house and vowed that they would never be parted as long as they lived. They often walked in the forest picking fruit. The animals never hurt them. They trusted the girls so much that they would walk up to them. The hare ate clover from their hands, and the deer grazed beside them. The elk danced around them, and oh, baby, I know. And the birds perched on the branches above if they stayed late in the forest, and it became... Ouch, baby, I know, baby. Okay. Okay, you're okay. The birds perched in the branches above them, singing beautiful songs to the girls. Oh, here you go. If they stayed late in the forest and it became too dark to find their way home, they would sleep side by side in the moss until the next morning. Their mother knew they were safe there and never worried about them. One time, when they had spent the night in the forest, they awoke at dawn and saw a beautiful child in a bright white dress standing in front of them. She looked at them kindly, but said nothing, and then she disappeared into the forest. When the girls looked around and discovered that they had been sleeping at the very edge of a cliff, they would certainly have fallen off if they had walked just 2 more steps in the darkness. Their mother was sure that the child must have been a guardian angel of good children. Snow White and Red Rose kept their mother's hut so clean that it was always a pleasure to look at. In the summer, Rose Red did the housework every morning before her mother awoke. Then she would place a bunch of flowers beside her bed, in which there was 1 rose from each bush. In the winter, Snow White lit the fire and hung the kettle on the pot hanger. This big copper kettle glittered like gold in the firelight because she had polished it so well. In the evening, when the snow fell, their mother would say, "Snow White, bolt the door, please." Then they sat by the fireside. Their mother put her glasses on and read to the children from a big book, and the 2 young girls spun wool while they listened. Their pet lamb slept at their feet and behind them on its perch. Oh, baby. Oh, kitten, you're so good. Their pet lamb slept at their feet behind them on a perch. Slept Snow White's turtle dove with its head tucked under its wing. One night, when they were all sitting peacefully together, there was a knock on the door. Rose Red opened the door quickly. Said her mother, "It might be a traveler who is looking for shelter." Rose Red pulled back the bolt, expecting to see a poor man, but in her great surprise, a bear put his big head through the doorway. Rose Red screamed and jumped back. The lamb began bleeding. and the turtle dove started flapping about, and Snow White hid behind her mother's chair. Then the bear began to speak. "Don't be afraid. I won't do you any harm. I am half frozen, and I only want to warm myself a little." "Poor bear," said the mother, "lie down near the fire, and be careful not to burn your fur." Then she said, "Snow White, Red Rose, come here, my children. The bear will not hurt you." But they both came closer. Little by little, the lamb and the turtle dove also approached, and were not afraid of him any longer. Then the bear said, "My children, would you mind brushing the snow off my fur?" So they went and got a broom and cleaned the bear's fur. Then he stretched out by the fire, rumbling gently with comfort and pleasure. The girls soon felt so sure of the bear that they began to tease their large guest. They pulled his fur with their hands and put their little feet on his back, rolling him from side to side, patting him with a stick, and burst out laughing when he drawled. The bear let them play, but if it became too rough, he said, "Children, leave me in peace. Snow White, Red Rose, don't kill your sweetheart." Ooh. When it was bedtime and the girls were asleep, their mother said to the bear, "You stay the night there, near the fire, and God will watch over you." The next morning the two girls let the bear go. When he asked, and he went back into the forest, shuffling through the snow. From then on, he came back every night at the same time to lie near the fire, and he let the girls play with him. They were so used to him by now that they did not bolt the door any more until after their friend came in. When spring arrived and everything outside was green again, the bear said to Snow White one morning, "Now I have to leave you. You will not see me in the summer." "Where are you going, dear bear?" asked Snow White. "I have to go into the forest to protect all my treasures from the bad gnomes," he replied. "In the winter, when the land is completely frozen, the treasure is safe, for they have to stay under the ground. Now the sun has warmed the ground, they can make holes and get out. Everything they lay their hands on is taken back to their caves and never seen again." Snow White opened the door for him, but she was very sad because he had to leave. However, as the bear left, a little piece of his fur stuck on the latch. It seems to Snow White that she saw gold glitters through the fur, but she was not absolutely sure. The bear left quickly, and soon he had disappeared behind the trees. Some time later, the mother sent her children into the woods to gather twigs. On their way, they found a huge tree lying on the ground, and another, the trunk. They saw something jumping about between the leaves, but they could not make out what it was. When they came closer, they saw it was a gnome. He had an old, wrinkled face and a long white beard. The end of his beard was caught on a crack of the tree, and the little man was leaping from one side to the other like a chained dog, not knowing how to get out of this tangle. He started at the two girls with his flaming eyes and cried, "What are you standing there for? Can't you come and help me?" "Little man, what are you doing there?" asked Red Rose. "You foolish, nosy goose," answered the gnome. "I wanted to chop down this tree and got some small log for the kitchen. The big log burns our little plates that we use to eat from. Since we are not as greedy as you, I drove a wedge in with my axe, but the wedge was too shiny. It flew straight out, and the crack closed so quickly that I had no time to pull out my beautiful white beard. Now I am stuck. Don't laugh at me, you naughty girls. Oh, you are very unkind. The children tried with all their might to pull the beard out of the tree, but it was impossible. It was completely stuck. I will go and find someone else to help us, said Red Rose. You silly lamb, rumbled the gnome. What good would that do? There are already 2 of you here, and that is far too many. Can't you think of anything better? Be patient, exclaimed Red Rose. We will find a solution. She took a pair of scissors from her pocket and cut the beard where it was caught. As soon as the gnome was free, he snatched up the bag filled with gold that was hidden between the roots of the tree. He hugged it tight and moaned, "Oh, what horrible scissors that dared to cut the end of my fine beard. I hope the devil will get you, you wicked girls." Then he swung the bag on his back and was off, without even thanking the children. Another day later in the summer, Snow White and Red Rose decided to go fishing. When they arrived at the bank of the stream, they saw what they thought was a grasshopper jumping at side to side of the water. They ran towards it and recognized the gnome. "What are you doing?" asked Red Rose. "Do you want to jump into the water?" "No, I am not "No, I am not so dumb," answered the gnome. "Can't you see that fish trying to drag me into the water? Oh, it is an enchanted fish, and I cannot break free of it." The little man told the girls that he had sat down with a rod and a line, but a breeze had blown up and entangled the line in his beard, just when a big fish was biting it. He wasn't able to pull it back, since the fish was much stronger. The gnome tried to grab the blades of grass and rushes, but all in vain, and now he was in danger of being pulled into the water. The 2 girls arrived just in time. They pulled at the line and tried to release the beard, but they had no more luck than the gnome. The beard and cord were quite tangled in each other. At last, the only thing they could think of to do was take the scissors and cut the beard, which made it much shorter. When the gnome saw this, he started to cry. "Do you have to be so dumb? Wasn't it enough to cut the end off my beard? Now you have taken the best part away from me, and I am too embarrassed to go back to my friends. I hope you will get the punishment you deserve." Then the ungrateful gnome picked up the bag filled with pearls that was hidden in the reeds, and without saying another word, he disappeared behind the stone. A few days later, their mother sent the 2 young girls into town to buy some thread and needles, some bride and some ribbon. The path led across the field, scattered with big rocks. On their way, they saw an eagle hovering overhead. Suddenly, as they watched, it swooped down behind the rocks, just as they were wondering down behind the rock, wondering what the big bird had spotted. There they heard a loud and piercing shriek. The girls ran towards the noise and saw that the eagle was grabbing their old friend the gnome, and was trying to fly away with him. The children quickly caught hold of the gnome's jacket and held it tight. The eagle flapped. The gnome howled, and the children struggled and pulled. Eventually, the effort became too much for the eagle, who had to give up and let go of the prey. When the gnome had recovered from the shock, he screamed with all his might, Can't you have handled me a little more carefully? You have pulled so hard on my little jacket that it is torn to shreds. You horrible, clumsy girls. Then he picked up the bag filled with precious stones and slipped under the rock into his cave. The young girls were used to his ungratefulness by now. They carried on towards the town to do their shopping, thinking no more about the horrid little man. However, on the way back across the fields, they again met the gnome. He was gloating over his hoard of precious stones, and had not expected anyone to pass by at that time of the evening. The sunset made the stones sparkle at the sight. Was so beautiful that the girls stopped to look. "What are you staring at with your monkey faces?" snapped the gnome. When he saw them, his pale face became as red as fire, and he began to shout more insults at them in the hopes that they would decide to go away. All of a sudden there was a terrible roar, and the black bear came running from the woods. The terrified gnome tried to hide, but the bear was too fast for him and quickly caught him with his huge paws. Then he started squealing and howling. "Dear Mr. Bear, spare me. I will give you all my treasures. Look at the beautiful stones I have here. Don't kill me. What would you do with such a poor little man like me? You wouldn't even feel me between your teeth. Why don't you take these two wretched girls instead? They would make a delicious snack for you. They are so plump as a pair of geese. And goodness sakes, eat them instead of me." The bear did not take any notice of what the gnome was saying, and gave him one kick, which killed him instantly. When the bear called out to the two frightened girls, who were running away as fast as they could, "Snow White, Red Rose, don't be afraid. Wait for me. I'll go with you." Suddenly the girls recognized his voice and stopped running in delight. But when the creature came closer to them, his bearskin suddenly fell off, and in front of them instead stood a young man dressed all in gold. "I am a prince," he said. "I was bewitched by the evil gnome, who stole all my treasures. He made me run through the woods in the form of a wild bear, and said I would not be free of the spell until his death. Now he has received all punishment he deserved. And now you might think that it was the end of that story, but it wasn't quite. A few years later, Snow White married the prince, and Red Rose married his brother. The old mother lived with her children in peace and happiness ever after. She brought the rose bushes to the palace and planted them under the window, and every year they still bloomed with the most beautiful white and red roses in the world. Alright, baby, I love you. Mama has to go milk the cow. Look at this beautiful little kitten. Can you see him? Can you see her? Look at her. Isn't she cute? Her name is Luna, and she's just the cutest little girl. Alright, let's do, Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his bowl, and he called for his fiddlers three. And every fiddler had a very fine fiddle, and a very fine fiddle had he. Oh, there's none so rare as can compare as King Cole and his fiddlers three. Okay, let's do Lila Tove, and good night to you. Lila Tove, may your dreams come true. We sing Lila Tove, may Israel protect you throughout the night until we reach the morning light. Karina, baby, your mama loves you. I love you so very much, honey. I will always love you. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to hold you. I can't wait to take you places. I just love you, baby. I love you so much. Alright, Karina, baby, have a very good day. Mama just loves you. Like Papa used to say, Mama's his sun, Papa's my moon, and you're our rainbow baby. You really are. Quite literally our rainbow baby, honey. I love you so much. I can't wait to see you, baby.